welcome back to The World is Storytelling with me, Ronnie. And I'm here in a delightfully rainy car park in the village of Kong. What a great name. I'm in Kong. This is a convoluted way to start the podcast. I'm actually in between the recording of 2 episodes of this podcast that are coming soon, and I'm so excited to be out in the bizarre Irish spring weather. Yesterday, thick snow up one hill. Today, lovely-ish sunshine. And the forecast for tomorrow is horrific rain. So, let's hope that the hike for tomorrow actually ends up going ahead and that you get a wonderful episode out of it. And this episode is with the beautifully named Cupidstown Hill, the county top of Kildare, with the fantastic, very wise Professor Saris. Enjoy Dr. Saris's wise words, and if you have ideas of who I should be climbing hills with, whether they're county tops or anything else, be in touch. I'll be in touch with any other thoughts, problems, ideas, whatever I can help you with. I'm here. Now, thank you for listening, and before we get going, what do you call a bear that loves light rain? That's right. A drizzly bear. A drizzly bear. All right, well, thank you for listening and have a wonderful, wonderful day. So tell a story, one that is true. So, welcome back to The World is Storytelling, and welcome to The World is Storytelling. Jamie, Professor, Doctor...
an associate professor of anthropology at Maynooth University.
Fantastic to have you here, and where is here?
Here is Cupidstown Hill, although as we found up on the walk with a native that is called by the locals Lamb's Hill, which I think is, was it Knocknatuna or something like that in my bad Irish. But
I was impressed, absolutely.
And we're staring out at quite a credible view, despite being, I believe, only 396 meters above sea level, to a small rise in the middle of a flat valley. With some beautiful hedgerows, and we could probably see 2 or 3 counties. If the haze lifted, that might be a bit more.
So the other side of the hill, we saw it for a second there, the Wicklow Mountains.
That was lovely,
Foggy, more hills, very bumpy, very up and down. And then you come through this very monoculture forest. You have a phone tower behind us.
And a substation, an entire substation.
Which is definitely dwarfing the cairn here.
Yeah, the little...
And this is, in some ways, you're not from here, but this is your hill.
My adopted county. It's a weird, as I told you, if I'm anything really in Ireland, I'm probably an adopted Sligo man, because that's my field family, if you like, is in Sligo. The people I stayed with and I still kind of celebrate, like birthdays and, funerals and things like that with. But I have lived in Kildare more or less consistently for 31 years. So, at some point I'm going to have to admit to being a lily white, I guess.
Being in Kildare for almost 30 years, and this being the county top of Kildare, which
I have never been. I have been on the highest peak in a few counties in Ireland, but never this. This is really interesting. Kildare is one of those places, I think we were selling on the car ride up, that it's got these little pockets of really beautiful places, although it has the reputation of not being the most scenic of counties. But it has these little hidden gems. It has some really amazing walled gardens that you can visit, on certain days publicly. I used to take my kids out to those when they were much younger. There's a lot of really good bicycling territory here, because with the exception of this, which I must say I did not cover myself with glory on the climb up, because I will blame John O'Brennan on this for the extra pints that we had last night. That hill that we were just up is quite unusual for Kildare as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. And you think to yourself, perhaps if the county lines were drawn slightly different, then there would be absolutely no rise in Kildare at all.
Yeah. Somebody's third floor would be.
This is probably stolen from the Wicklow Mountains. What does Kildare mean to you?
Well, I don't know. Maynooth is probably where I would say is home. that bears the mark of the university, and it makes it, it's a very different place than it would be if the university wasn't there. It would be a bedroom town. Instead, it's, kind of its own little 15-minute city, and so, I am in Kildare, but I am not always of Kildare, with all due respect to the Kildarians. I am probably more of a Maynoothian, or Maynoothese. I'd say Maynoothien would probably be the correct phrase. And I'm very, I'm quite fond of Maynooth. The other thing that I always found funny about Kildare is, the Lily Whites, and they have a white flag. And the first time, fairly early on in my time here in the mid-90s, the Kildare football team was doing pretty well, Gaelic football.
Yeah.
And, they were at Croke Park. I think it was semifinals. And, I just remember walking into the university and all of these white flags, and I thought, if we surrendered to an occupying army, it's very, so I just hadn't twigged that. Yeah, that's white, Lily White. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Rory, who we met, shout out.
What a character!
To Rory,
yeah.
And the dog.
And the dog gun. Yeah. There's this really interesting Irish word that I've written about. It's called dinshenkas, which is sort of like running together place names and story. And very often you will have, arguments conducted in place names. And in a way you get a bit of that, where we say, Cupidstown. That sounds pretty desperate to me. I bet you that was some 19th century affectation. And I am almost sure he's right. On one bicycle trip, this is a very long time ago, I blew out my knee in a thigh playing ball with some underprivileged kids that a friend of mine was coaching. Really? I ruptured my Achilles tendon. It was not fun. As I said, I'm an adopted Sligo man. I spent literally decades walking up and down Knocknarea, generally with a child on my back first. The daughter of this family and I more or less share a birthday 20 years apart. So when she was little, and I was just there, she found me a useful conveyance to get up the hill. So, and then I did have a break of a few years until I had my own. At this point in time, I'm just kind of broken down. So, I don't think I'm going to be taking a child up the hill anymore. But, that was a place you would get to the top. Whereas a lot of Kildare is just, kind of rolling through it. A friend of mine who used to work on board Planala, Stephen Dowds, used to take me on these little trips. And you really want to know a county. A guy who does planning is great because he's gone to every nook and cranny. And there were all these little places that he knew around Kildare, but a lot of the fun of it was sometimes just getting to it, because this was before Google Maps or anything else. So that kind of thing is really interesting, and it takes a certain almost a person kind of from the outside who sort of has to learn it to sort of appreciate it, so and I mean you're I've just put my cap on because we have a little bit of rain. we do.
I mean, I don't want to say that it makes you look more of the countryside, but it kind of does.
It does, yeah. We had a conference this summer, and a friend of mine took a picture of me as I was walking across Maynooth Castle, and it has that arch, and it was sort of even, it was getting to evening, and so the light was, kind of low for the summer, and it was dark. She took it in black and white, and she gave it to me, and it's just, I really do look like a country squire with a house falling down around them. So I use that as my Twitter handle now because it's so kind of out of character. Yeah,
you could be one of those people now standing at the top of your land and observing everything,
waiting for the cheering peasants
to give you a tribute or something. When you look back, what's a moment when you thought, okay, this feels like home?
I'm constituted in such a way that I miss people more than places. So when you realize you have, a wife, kids, and a mortgage, it is, kind of undeniable that your home is there as well. I mean, like, or if it isn't, you seem to be, what you say you're doing and what you're doing seem to be rather at odds with one another. So so that was probably for me. But then, these things get mixed up in funny ways. I don't know if you remember in the
Shall we decamp to the trees?
To the trees. Yeah,
Let's do it.
I am appropriately dressed for the weather.
Well, I have the...
Yeah, that's true too.
So we are now in the spooky undergrowth of a monoculture pine forest, which is just where we behind where we were sat before.
But even by those standards of monoculture pines, these are fasciously lined up. I mean, the corridors are almost straight. It's really quite impressive in its own way. Well, those that know me know that I am not a modest man, so I probably, I have few of my both my wife and my daughter, are quick to point out that self-praise is no praise, and I said I'm not sure about that. It amuses me, so it's you could do a lot worse as for a conversation in a pub or something like that, than myself. But I think if probably most parents, if I'm going to be bragging, I would probably say something about my kids, and I think my daughter is sharp 23-year-old who has constantly does stuff that I didn't know you were interested in that, and then my son, is like a hoot, and 16 going on 35, and I that's probably where most of my bragging is done, nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite lovely, and I'm sure they'd appreciate it. You had this idea of two professors in a pub doing a podcast, and when you think back to sitting in an Irish pub, supping on a Guinness, which sounds like something...
Which I did too much last night.
Too much last night.
I'm looking at you, John. I'm looking at you.
What is a moment of that? Yeah, tell us a story about being in a pub.
And I remember I was in not too far from Gertrude, which would be about 14 kilometers south of Ballymote. I was there, and this is a classic afternoon, and I went in, and there's this old guy that probably has not moved for decades, and there's this young guy behind the bar, and I said, I'll have a pint, because I was going to work on some notes before I walked home, and he heard the accent, and he started to talk, and in the midst of a sentence, he looked up as a guy walked in, and it was dark inside, so it takes a minute for your eyes to adjust. Yeah. If you're coming in, and he looked up in mid-sentence, broke it off, and said, "We don't serve your kind here." And the guy did a little pirouette and walked out. Now it's just Now that was, of course, a traveler. This is out and out travel, anti-traveler shit. Yeah. And in an American racial classification, everybody there was white and Irish. Yeah, and so it was there was my professor at Chicago, Jim Fernandez, writes about in the field revelatory moments, where like a constellation of things kind of all come together, and you say, oh yeah, that's how this works, and there'd be moments like that, and in the mental hospital itself. I was talking to a lot of nurses, and I was talking to a lot of doctors, and they would not themselves socialize with one another. They would even have different golf courses. So golf, I don't really golf. I hit the ball hard and take the name of God in vain. But so that and I haven't gotten better. So it's really not good. Within that. But we're kind of wandering off the topic of Kildare.
Well, so go on to finish us off for the listeners. My form of penance is that I was very, very late this morning, half because of the traffic, but also because of my own silliness, so I'll say that out in public. To finish us off, a few words about Kildare and about Lamb Hill, Cupidstown Hill.
Cupidstown Hill, and let's call it Lamb's Hill because I think it's just nicer. It's lovely. So yeah, definitely well worth a visit. It would be nice if they had a couple of amenities, a bench or two. So Kildare County Council, if you're listening to this, please take note. I think you could probably, kind of get people to be a little more excited about the place. But yeah, it's fantastic. I'm delighted that you called me out here.
Well, thanks for being here. And it's been really, really lovely. And that crump in the background was presumably the Irish Army's firing range in Wicklow.
It could be, yeah. Or thunder.
Or thunder, or a nuclear attack on Dublin.
All right, that wouldn't be good. No,
not at all. Well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
It's been fantastic.
Some say the old ruins in the sand tell us every story will come to an end. But my dear, we can live what we tell. We are storytelling animals.